There was no sign of a dog, no barking. The manoir, islanded and sun-drenched in its clearing among the sea of huge oaks and beeches, was not quite what he had expected, perhaps because he spoke very little French, hardly knew the country outside Paris, and had translated the word visually as well as verbally in terms of an English manor house. In fact, it had more the appearance of a once substantial farm. Nothing very aristocratic about the facade of pale ochre plaster, broadly latticed by reddish beams and counterpointed by dark brown shutters. To the east there was a little wing at right angles, apparently of more recent date. But the ensemble had charm, old and compact, a warm face of character, a good solid feel. He had simply anticipated something grander. There was a gravelled courtyard opposite the southward of the house, geraniums by the foot of the wall, 2 old climbing roses, a scatter of white doves on the roof. All the shutters were in use, the place asleep. But the main door, with a heraldic stone shield above, its details effaced by time and placed eccentrically towards the west end of the house, was lodged open. David walked cautiously across the gravel to it. There was no knocker, no sign of a bell, nor, mercifully, of the threatened dog. He saw a stone-flagged hall, an oak table beside an ancient wooden staircase, with worn and warped medieval-looking banisters that led upwards. Beyond, on the far side of the house, another open door framed a sunlit garden. He hesitated, aware that he had arrived sooner than suggested, then tapped on the massive main door with his knuckles. A few seconds later, realizing the futility of the weak sound, he stepped over the threshold. To his right stretched a long gallery-like living room. Ancient partitions must have been knocked down, but some of the major black uprights had been retained and stood out against the white walls with a skeletal bravura. The effect was faintly Tudor, much more English than the exterior. A very handsome piece of dense but airy space, antique carved wood furniture, bowls of flowers, a group of armchairs and 2 sofas further down, old pink and red carpets, and, inevitably, the art. No surprise, except that one could walk in on it like this, since David knew there was a distinguished little collection beside the old man's own work. Famous names were already announced. Ensor, Marquet. That landscape at the end must be a cool Durand, and over the fireplace. But he had to announce himself. He walked across the stone floor beside the staircase to the doorway on the far side of the room. A wide lawn stretched away. Flower beds, banks of shrubs, some ornamental trees. It was protected from the north by a high wall, and David saw another line back there of lower buildings, hidden from the front of the house, barns and byres when the place was a farm. In mid-lawn there was a catalpa pruned into a huge green mushroom. In its shade sat, as if posed, conversing, a garden table and 3 wicker chairs. Beyond, in a close pool of heat, 2 naked girls lay side by side on the grass. The further, half-hidden, was on her back, as if asleep. The nearer was on her stomach, chin propped on her hands, reading a book. She wore a wide-brimmed straw hat, its crown loosely sashed with some deep red material. Both bodies were very brown, uniformly brown, and apparently oblivious of the stranger in the shadowed doorway 30 yards away. He could not understand that they had not heard his car in the forest silence, but he really was earlier than the tea time he had proposed in his letter, or perhaps there had after all been a bell at the door, a servant who should have heard. For a brief few seconds he registered the warm tones of the 2 indolent female figures, the catalpa shade green and the grass green, the intense carmine of the hat sash, the pink wall beyond with its ancient espalier fruit trees. Then he turned and went back to the main door, feeling more amused than embarrassed. He thought of Beth again. How she would have adored this being plunged straight into the legend, the wicked old faun and his famous afternoons. Where he had first intruded, he saw at once what he had, in his curiosity, previously missed. A bronze handbell sat on the stone floor, behind one of the door jambs. He picked it up and rang, then wished he hadn't. The sharp schoolyard jangle assaulted the silent house, its sunlit peace, and nothing happened. No footsteps upstairs, no door opening at the far end of the long room he stood in. He waited on